Hi, it's me again, Madam Tintin, and for today's video, I am going to discuss on how to multiply and divide monomials. So, start muna tayo sa multiplying monomials. Pero bago yun, mag-recall muna tayo ng laws of exponent na magagamit natin in multiplying monomials. So, we have the product rule, wherein x raised to m times x raised to n is just copy the bases, which is x, and then we have to add the exponent. Next is the power of a power. For example, x raised to m raised to n, wherein we multiply the exponent inside the parentheses to the exponent outside the parentheses. So, it is equal to x raised to m times n. And the last one is the power of a product. For example, x times y raised to m. So, ang gagawin naman dito is, i-distribute natin ang exponent to the bases. So, this is equal to x raised to m and then y raised to m. Okay, so paano nga ba mag-multiply ng monomials? To multiply monomials, multiply the numerical coefficients by following the rule of multiplication of signed numbers, and then multiply the literal coefficients and apply the laws of exponents to obtain the literal coefficients of the product. Example number 1, multiply b squared negative 2b cubed and negative 3x squared. Okay. So, in multiplying monomials, we have to multiply the numerical coefficient. So, ang numerical coefficient dito sa first term natin is 1. And then sa second term, negative 2. And then for the third term, negative 3. And then, multiply the literal coefficient. That is b squared. And then we have b cubed, and then x squared. So, 1 times negative 2 is negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. And then b squared times b cubed. Using the laws of exponent, copy the base, and then 2 plus 3 add the exponent, which is 5, and just copy x squared. So, our final answer is 6b raised to 5 x squared. Example number 2, multiply 14a cubed b raised to 4 and 2a squared b. Okay. First is multiply the numerical coefficient. That is 14 times 2. And then, for the literal coefficient, we have a cubed. And then, sa second term, we have a squared. And then, b raised to 4 and b. So, 14 times 2 is 28. And then, for the variable a, 3 plus 2, add the exponent, 5. And then, for the variable b, 4 plus 1 is 5. So, our final answer is 28, a raised to 5, b raised to 5. Next example, simplify and find the product of the cube of 5x squared y raised to 4. So, in this case, we are going to distribute the exponent 3 to the bases. So, 5, and then distribute the exponent 3, and then x, And then, apply the laws of exponent. So, 2 times 3, that is 6. And then y, 4 times 3 is 12. So, our final answer is 5 cubed times x raised to 6 times y raised to 12. Or, simplify. 5 cubed is 125. And then x raised to 6, y raised to 12. Last example, simplify and find the product of the square of 2a squared and the square of ab cubed. Okay, same process. We have to distribute the exponents to the bases. So 2 squared and then a. For the variable a, 2 times 2, 4. And then for this term, we have a, 1 times 2 is 2. And for the variable b, 3 times 2 is 6. And then simplify. 2 squared is 4. And then for the base a, 4 plus 2 is 6. And then for the base b, b raised to 6. So our final answer is 4 times a raised to 6 times b raised to 6. Okay, good job. So proceed tayo in dividing monomials. So in dividing monomials, of course, we have to divide the numerical coefficient to get the numerical coefficient of the quotient. And then to get the literal coefficient, we have to apply the laws of exponents. So, gagamitin ulit natin ang mga laws of exponents in dividing like the quotient rule. So, x raised to m over x raised to n is equal to x raised to m minus n. So, in multiplying, we are adding the exponents. And then for dividing, we are subtracting the exponent. Example number 1, divide 18x raised to 7 and 2x squared. So, in dividing monomials, i-divide muna natin ang numerical coefficient. That is 18 and 2. And then for the literal coefficient, x raised to 7 minus 2. We have to subtract the exponent. So 18 divide 2 is 9. And then for the literal coefficient, x raised to 5. So the answer for example number 1 is 9x raised to 5. Next example, 10x cubed divided by 5x raised to 5. So, ganun pa rin. Ang unahin natin is the constant. So, 10 divided by 5. And then for literal coefficient, subtract the exponent, x raised to 3 minus 5. So, 10 divided by 5 is 2. And then for the literal coefficient, x raised to 3 minus 5 is negative 2. So, sabi, pag monomial, bawal ang negative exponent. Pag nakita nyo na negative exponents, ang nasa literal coefficient natin, kunin nyo ang reciprocal nito. So, ang reciprocal ng x raised to negative 2 is 1 over x squared. Ibig sabihin, our final answer is 2 over x squared. Last example, divide 16a raised to 5 times b raised to 4 times c raised to 6 and 4 times a squared times b raised to negative 5 times c times d raised to negative 1. So, ang first step is the constant. So, 16 divided by 4. And then, isa-isahin natin yung mga variable. So, a raised to 5 over a squared. And then, times b raised to 4 times b raised to negative 5. And then, c raised to 6 over c. And then, since negative yung ating exponent sa d, ang reciprocal niya is d raised to 1 over 1. Since yung variable na d is nasa denominator, ang reciprocal niya is magiging nasa numerator. Okay, and then perform the operation. So, 16 divided by 4 is 4. And then, isa-isahin natin ang literal coefficient. A raised to 5 minus 1. And then for b raised to 4 minus negative 5. And then for c raised to 6 minus 1. And then d raised to 1. So the final answer is 4 times a raised to 4 times b raised to 9 and c raised to 5 times d. And that ends our topic for today. I hope you learned something about multiplying and dividing monomials. Goodbye!